tell us a little bit about just your professional experience and where you're coming from and what you're going to be showing us today.
Yeah, sure. So are we live already?
Yes, sir.
Wow, it's amazing. So hello, everyone. So my name is Udi Kalmanovitz. I live in Israel. I'm a freelance illustrator and character designer, doing most of my work for games and a little bit for advertisement. I also teach and I run the Drawing Academy in Israel. So if you live in Israel, you can always stop by and say hello and do a little bit of workshops and classes with me. Today, I'm going to talk about basically my process or my approach when I start doing character design. So whenever I start basically to design a new character, I have like a similar process that I use all the time that works very fast or it's very practical for me. So today I'll try to demonstrate it and share it with you. And I hope you guys will enjoy it and get something out of it. Obviously, if there is any question coming our way, so I'm sure Solomon will help us with that.
Absolutely. There might be some people here on the floor walking around that might stop by, so just know you might get some random questions.
Yeah, of course. Also, I invited some of my friends and followers to check us out also. So I think let's jump right into it, right? So I want to show you a few like very quick sketches that I do. Basically, what I will show you right now are all sketches that was done during my classes, and what I want to like maybe convey or demonstrate with these sketches is the effectiveness of the process. Now, I do need to say that this process is only applicable when you're drawing digitally. So if you are drawing with like pencil and paper, it's not that it's not possible to do the same process. It will only be a little bit more tedious. But I mean, we're in Magma studio today, so we are drawing digitally. And like most of the sketches and the examples I'm showing you right now, was done like during my classes and took like, I think in average, something like 15 or 20 minutes to create. And it's not that it's like a sprint or a contest to see like how fast you can draw or how fast you can design or create. But it's more to show that whenever you have like a process that you're very familiar with, then it's easier to like recreate the same results and basically like to get from point A to point B like much faster and much more like efficiently. So I think like will be the best word to describe it, like to be efficient creating these characters. So I'll show you a few examples that I did during my classes, and there are two like main differences between like the first example, like this example or this example. This is like a bit of turnaround, and we'll also today talk about coloring our final sketch. So I hope to show the entire process, and also to let people that want to join online and draw with me and actually try the process themselves and maybe get a little bit of feedback from me, we can do that as well. So there are two main differences like between this process that you see here or that process that you see here. And the main difference is that sometimes it depends on the character that I need to design. Sometimes I like to approach the design process or the initial sketching process using only lines, as you can see here. So basically, like here, I try a little bit of different proportions and playing around with the proportion shapes. And once I have like the shape and the proportions, I feel like that I like the most. Then I take that and I start to develop the details and the idea on top of that. So this is like the first process. But what I do actually while doing that is I actually duplicate. Once I got like the shape that I want and the proportions that I want, I like to duplicate it like 10 times. And on each version of it, I try different details and I try different set of like maybe clothes or weapons and stuff like that. So basically, like the 3 examples here were done on the same base, but then I can use that base just like a mannequin and try to give it a new costume every time. And maybe like if I try something here, I can then say, oh, I like the mustache I did here, but I like the hat I did here, and I like the coat I did here, and stuff like that. And just doing like more iterations and more iterations. And working digitally makes it a lot more easier because I can take the base sketch and duplicate it many times as I want. Now, in this process that I did on this character over here, it's basically the same process, but a little bit different approach, because this process I didn't start with actually sketching lines. I start with creating the silhouettes. So sometimes I like to start with actually the silhouettes. And when I do that, I will create like, let's say 10 different silhouettes. And when I create the silhouettes, I still play with shapes and I still play with the proportions and with the gesture and the posing and stuff like that. And so let's say I have 10 different silhouettes I created. Those silhouettes, I can create them very fast because I use something like the lasso and the hard brush, and I just like do like blocks of color. And I don't think the reason I like creating silhouettes so much is because I don't need to think about perspective and I don't need to think about anatomy. It's a lot more intuitive. It's a process that goes like with your intuition. Either it feels right or it feels wrong. And once I created those 10 silhouettes, 20 silhouettes, I pick one silhouette that I like the most. And then I lower the opacity on that silhouette. I duplicate my favorite silhouette like a few more times, and then I try different details and different options on the same silhouette. So what you see here, basically, it's the same silhouette over and over again, as you can see on top. But once I lower the opacity of that silhouette, I start drawing on top of that silhouette, and then I can try different stuff. And this process is very, very, it's a lot fun. It's very fun for me because it's like a little bit of a Rorschach test. Like you see like this dark silhouette, and it gives you the option to imagine everything you can on top of it. Like you can actually, if I'll show you that silhouette, and I'll ask every person what he sees in that silhouette, probably every person will imagine something a little bit different. Someone will imagine like the character to be a little bit younger, and someone would imagine a character a little bit older, and someone will imagine a different kind of costumes and all kind of accessories and stuff like that. So basically, when I go over those silhouettes, that's what I do. I try like to imagine something inside that silhouette and then create it with lines and not start with the line. Now, I think that sometimes when we start directly with line drawing, we're actually committing to stuff in a very early age, very early, phase or step. So let's say if I draw a certain shape of the face, I'm like committing to that face. If I draw a certain detail for the clothing, I'm committing to this costume or something like that. But when I use like the silhouette, I'm not committing to anything. I'm only committing to that feel of the silhouette is conveying. So I think it's a lot more like intuitive approach to thing. So this character was done the same way. What you see here, I usually, when I start designing a character, and this is an important tip for everybody. When I start designing a character, I always try to start with a 3/4 view, like the 45 angles view. And sometimes people ask me, Udi, why you're always drawing your characters in a 45 angle? Why are not drawing your characters like in a front view or something like that? Well, the reason for that is that the 3/4 view is the angle that conveys the most information about our character. So if you think about it, let's just create quickly a new canvas. So if you think about it, if I'll draw a cube, okay, let's say I want to draw a cube. So if I draw a cube and I'll do something, let's go with that, and I'll do something like this. So that's a square. Nobody can tell it's a cube. I don't give you enough information to tell that's a cube. So when I turn this cube like in 45 degrees, now you get a lot more information. So I always tell my students, if you look at me in a front view, you can tell how wide my nose is, but you can't tell how long my nose is, right? And if you look at me in a profile view, in 90-degree angle, you can tell how long my nose is, but you can't tell how wide it is. So when I put things in a 45 angle, I can convey more information and basically make the character much more understandable and much more readable. And so that's why I always start with the 45-degree angle. So here I started with the same process, most of the time starting with silhouette, and then I basically did the model sheet and created the other angles. And after, we'll do a little bit of a quick demo here. And then I will talk a little bit more about the process of choosing the colors for the character. And for that process, I also have like simple steps that I usually start with before I start trying different stuff. It's like very mathematic for me. So let's start going. Solomon, I do get a lot of noise, I think, from your end. So I don't know. Maybe I will. Is that coming from you? Like the?
Are you hearing background noise?
Yeah, I think it's. Yeah, I guess there's nothing to do.
The doors have opened. All the people are walking through the halls now, and there's a lot of talking in the background. So you might hear a lot of background. If you want me to, I could try to turn my mic down. Maybe that'll help if it's too loud.
Maybe a little bit, yeah. Or maybe I'll... Okay, so let's start creating something from scratch. So what I'm thinking of doing right now, let's delete that, and okay. We also see Yariv is over here. So what I'm thinking of doing right now, I'm in the last few days having fun with drawing different designs for the Phantom of the Opera, and I did like a few realistic versions of the Phantom. So today we are talking about creating like cartoonish, more stylized character. So I'm thinking like maybe doing a cartoonish version to the Phantom of the Opera. I think that would be great. So let's start with that and see where it takes us. So I think like starting, as I said, starting with silhouettes today, instead of starting with line drawing, I think less people are familiar with that approach. And I want to show you in Magma Studio a tool that is perfect for that particular job. So usually when I work in Photoshop, if I want to create like quick shapes, what I do is I use the lasso tool, and then I fill those selection I make with the lasso tool. You probably know how to do that. So let's say I'm using the lasso tool, I'm creating a shape, and then I need actually to fill that shape. So that will be the process. But in Magma Studio, there is a tool that says lasso brush. What does it mean, lasso brush? So basically, it actually, imagine that you're using the lasso, but it's automatically getting filled for you. So if I create a shape, you can see that while I'm creating the shape, it already fills up that shape for me. So using that tool, I can really create silhouettes very, very fast. So I like to use the black color. And when I do that, I try not to think about the size of the character I'm doing or stuff like that. Can always like transform, shrink, put it over here, put it over there. Just like be very fluent with it. Try to think about it like doing brainstorming with yourself. It's very, very important. I can't stress this enough. It's very important to be non-judgmental about what you're creating. Get all your ideas out and then pick the best idea. So let's say I will create like a quick shape for the head and a quick shape for the neck, and I'll try to create something that is a little bit thinking about the action line and a little bit about the gesture. So let's do something like this. And I want to create his legs like very, very like next to each other. And let's say he's got 1 foot this direction and one going like in this direction, or maybe a little bit more towards us, something like that. And I think that I will create like this arm here, and it will be covered by a cloth or something, and another arm over here. This arm is too long. Let's create it again. And you see, I'm only using like very, very, very simple shapes and adding those shapes together bit by bit. And let's say he has like this lamp over here. Let's see what we will do with that. And also his cape will be like, and let's maybe add like a big hat or something like that, and a little bit of his hair. Okay, so that's basically it. Like, just create those shapes, and you can see that when you create like those dark shapes, you don't have to think about, oh, is it what's my perspective, or like thinking about anatomy. It's like very, very intuitive. It either it feels right or it feels wrong. And if something feels wrong, it's so easy to just go in and like start deleting and start like cutting into those shapes and create them again. So let's take this one. Oh, sorry about that. Let's take this shape, this silhouette over here. And I didn't. Okay. And let's shrink it a little bit and put it over here. And let's create another one. So I'll create another one on a new layer. And I'm trying to look at my first silhouette, and I ask myself questions. And this is very important. Like, try to ask yourself like hard, honest questions. Like, when I look at that silhouette, I think to myself, what do I feel? Do I feel like it's a little bit scary? Because I want the Phantom to be like this dark, mysterious character. And I'm looking at the head with the hat, and it looks more like a painter. And I don't think like his pose is looking too much mysterious or too much like frightening. So I want to play with those things, like how do I make it a little bit more scary or a little bit more mysterious? So let's try to play with the pose a little bit. What will happen if I'll create like a new shape for the head? I'm just doing like a simple shape. I don't go into details. But right now I'm thinking like, let's make him a little bit more, like a little bit more bent over. So it will have like this feeling of maybe like sneaking upon you, right? So let's do something like this and put his like one leg over here. And let's put the other leg over here. And I will cover this very soon, I think, with his cape and his arm. I wanted to go out of the silhouette, not covering the face.
I've never seen such fluid lasso application.
Yeah, I think this is my favorite tool in Magma. It's just amazing. You can create everything you want with this like one stroke. You can create everything you want. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's such a simple concept and such a simple tool, but to be able to use it in this way is very cool to see you so quickly being able to generate shapes and images this way.
Thank you, brother. So I'm using the other arm and I'm thinking like how these arms flow into this arm. So I'm thinking like how they work together, and this arm will actually hold like his cape, like so, and this cape will go also over this arm, maybe something like that. Let's see how this shape will work. And maybe let's give him like this vampire collar around the neck, so it will make it a lot more mysterious. Oh, look at this. It's already looking a lot more mysterious and scary. And now let's give him like a different hat. Like maybe let's give him like this, something like that. Okay, so right now I don't like the square I'm getting here. You see, I'm getting this square shape I don't like. So I'm thinking, how do I change the shape? What can I do? I can change the angle of the leg, or I can actually change the angle of, that's much better. I like using triangles more than squares. Like a triangle, it's a shape that looks more dangerous, right? It has like this pointy, how do you say it? Like, I don't forget like even the word for the point of the shape or the triangle. But yeah. I think so. But I believe you get my point. So let's try something like that. So if you look at the new silhouette, like look with what we started. Look with what we started, and when I talked about like asking yourself like honest questions, like look at how those questions like got us like a lot better result. Like I said, oh, I don't think it looks scary enough. I don't think it looks mysterious enough. So let's go in presentation mode. I will let you guys in my canvas in a minute. So, okay, so you can already see like I'm getting a much better result just creating like the second silhouette. Let's try a third one. So if I'm looking at this silhouette and I ask myself, okay, where can I go from this silhouette right now? So I'm thinking, what if I'll try to do something a little bit less complex, a little bit more simplified, less complex, and more readable? So let's see how this will go. So let's start again with a simple head shape. And right now, what I will do is I will actually want to create Like the entire cape, or maybe the entire rope or coat going down in this manner. And maybe again using the arm. Or something like that, giving him like the color. And let's create like maybe as like 2 different layers of capes. Something like that. And oh, I like this one very, very much. So what I decided doing like in this iteration is I wanted to make it a little bit more simple. I didn't like the arm going in both directions, so I decided maybe I will hide one arm inside of the silhouette, and maybe like creating a shorter cape and this long maybe coat. So basically you can tell this is like a very streamlined process. Let's take this silhouette and sorry about that. Don't use Control T. So I will take this silhouette over here, and also I will do a little bit of copy into a new layer. And let's delete this one. Right. And right now, what I will do is actually, which is a big part of the process, let's merge it down. Okay, so usually when I tackle like a new character, I'm creating, you see, it's very, very fast. I'm usually doing like 6, 7, sometimes 10 different silhouettes. It depends like how it's developing and how much do I like the silhouettes and the result I'm getting. But I'm usually creating a lot of silhouettes, and then I pick like my favorite silhouette. So right now, so I won't waste more time. What I will do is create a new one. I have maybe this one over here, and I'll make it a little bit bigger. That's great. And I'll try to like duplicate it a few times. So let's go here and duplicate that character. And let's duplicate it again. Okay, that is awesome. So, and let's merge this down. And let's take the opacity down a little bit. Okay, so we're going places. So now when I take the opacity down and I got the silhouette I like, I also think I will add a feather to his head, maybe a little bit later on. But when I lower the opacity down, now we can add a new layer and try to start playing with details on top of this silhouette. The point of the silhouette is actually like to help our imagination, to create the character inside our imagination. And also, when we start with the silhouette, we basically tackle the silhouette first. A lot of character designers and a lot of artists, they creating characters, and after they create the initial sketch or they create the character itself, then they try to fill the character and then they think, okay, now let's check the silhouette. And sometimes you are invested in this character, and then you see your silhouette is not that great. So I think like starting from the silhouette, it's very good. You can actually get like the feeling of the character of the silhouette first thing, and then go in actually developing the idea itself. So let's create a new character. And right now what I'm doing is actually starting to play around with a little bit of detail. Now, something very important. When you create the silhouette is a very like fast approach to do things. Don't think that once you created the silhouette, you can draw outside of the silhouette, you can go outside of the lines or something like that. You can draw as freely as you want. The silhouette is only there to help you, not to like make you very constricted, right? So let's say his hat will be, I'll try to do a little bit of density. Let's see that. And a little bit, there is a minimum stabilizer, shape, size, This is my angle jitter, my stabilizer. Oh, okay. This is what I wanted, and let's shrink down a little bit our brush. And I want to start actually with the hat itself. So let's create a few lines for the hat. His color would be here and also here, and his head will pop outside. And already I'm thinking of how I want to deal with the mask itself. So let's do something like this. I will give him like this scarf here and like a little bit.
Look at all these curses jumping in. Looks like your friends are there.
Yeah. They're already playing around. So like in a few more minutes, guys, I will actually let you use the canvas and we'll do a little bit of experiment. We will divide the canvas to different areas, and every one of you will create a version of the phantom if you want, and I will help you and critique you on what you're doing. So let's say we have like this jacket over here, and it looks a little bit like the grandma from the Red Hood.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
You're getting Beauty and the Beast vibes mixed with that.
So even when I'm going to the details and the line drawings, what you can see is I'm not trying to go like doing this very finished and very like cleaned up version yet. The first step when I go into details, I'm very, very loose with it. It's very important. I'm trying to be very loose with the drawing and not going directly like trying to clean it up when I start. Let's do something like this. I really imagine like he is having like this big feather right here, suitable for the phantom. And let's say have like obviously the phantom mask. So I'm thinking like the shape of the nose. I want to give him, I will give him like this very big pointy nose. So it will look menacing. Let's give him a little bit of shadow under the head, right here. And I'm thinking, what is doing with the other arm? Maybe we can let the other arm like go a little bit outside or something, or maybe we will tackle it in the other version. Let's see how we want to go about it. Maybe we'll put his arm on the jacket right here. Okay, so the same as before. Once I do like a quick version, and I want to ask myself those honest questions, like how do I feel about it? What I think goes wrong? What I think is going right? So I really like the feather in the hat, and I like the shape of the mess, but I'm having like a few issues. First, I don't like what happens with the arm over here. So I know I want to change that in my next version. That's the first thing. Second thing, I'm thinking like those shoes are a little bit too simple. So I'm thinking maybe I'll try giving like these boots, like these big boots or something like that. Do it like maybe a more aristocrat style. So let's try those things. So I actually like the hat pretty much. So I'll create the hat again pretty quickly. I don't want to change anything with the hat right now. I will change a little bit, maybe the shape of the collar, and I like the tie right here. And let's say the cape or this shoulder something will be only up to this direction, and here I can actually create the arm maybe holding something. Like maybe he's holding a pistol or something like that. So let's say he holds something. Now, if I decided to create the pistol from the beginning, I would probably make the pistol go outside of the silhouette. I don't like having important details inside the silhouette, but I try to stay open and try stuff. Let's give him a little bit of decorating on the clothing, as so. And let's try to create his face a little bit more scary. So right now what I will do, I'll create a mask that goes on top of both eyes. So, and let's give him like this nice big boots. Already, I think it's becoming more interesting. Oh yeah, so I think it's already a lot more interesting and it's becoming much nicer for the first one. And also I do have like a little bit of things I do want to change. So right now, I don't like the gun inside the silhouette. So I don't like this part over here. I will try to change that in the next version. But I do like the boots and I do like the shorter shoulder stuff. Here, I think that's a little bit better. Let's create a third one and then we'll pick the one we like best and go a little bit to talk about coloring the character.
For new artists, this really seems to point out the importance of iteration and not getting in the habit of working on the same drawing and erasing and trying to fix and correct. Redrawing is very, very important to be really efficient.
I totally agree. I think that's the most important takeaway from this process. Like I think when I think about the time when I was more of a beginner, I will like spend so much time like erasing and fixing and going and doing iteration on details that nobody can tell, even like you change anything.
Right, that you obsess over, and you can't let go of it sometimes, especially as in the early stages of being release.
Yeah, and also I think like I try to tell my students, like try to develop the confidence that if you was able to create it once, you can create it again, and you probably can create it even better. And whenever you do like the process of like doing another character, basically you're also getting the mileage, you're also getting the practice because you're doing all those characters over and over again. So you basically
yeah, that's wonderful advice.
Okay, so I starting to really like, you can tell already that I have like a few details that I really like. So I decided like those details I will keep. And what I decided to do, the arm, like check this out. I will put this arm inside of his back. So basically we don't know what he's holding. It will actually add a little bit of mystery to this painting. And let's go with the big boots. Now, something I didn't talk about today because we don't have like much time to discuss about everything, but while I'm doing all those iteration, I do think about like the basics of character design. That means I'm trying to see that I don't repeat the same scaling for different parts, and I don't repeat the same shapes over and over again. Like I'm using like the basic stuff of creating like small, medium, large shapes, and trying to work with angular shapes and round shapes and see how they fit together. And I'm thinking about like the straight against curves and stuff like that, and try to work that inside what I'm doing. Now, I want to create like this head a little bit less wide as I did the other ones. And a little bit crazier with the eye. And maybe even let the color go out from the other side or something like that. Okay, that's turned out pretty nice. So usually by this time, what I do is like a 4th, 5th, and 6th versions, and then I start mixing things together. Like I can say, oh, I really like this mask over here, but I like the boots over here, and I like the coat over here and stuff like that. And I'm starting to mix some things together. But for now, let's take just one of the versions and like try to clean it up a little bit, right? So what I will do right now. Okay. So what I will do right now is I'll take the opacity of the silhouettes a little bit more down, like so, and also take the opacity of the line work a little bit down, and let's create a little bit cleaner version of our sketch. So I will try right now to do a little bit more exact version of the sketch and to clean it up a little bit. But I still, even if I go back to show you like the sketches that I showed you before, you can tell that I usually keep my sketches very loose. Like, unless I need to really render, I'm being asked to really render like the final version needs to be like strictly rendered. So I try to keep it very loose, as long as I think that the idea is clear, that the viewer can tell what he's looking at, right? There's something like with keeping your sketches very loose that keeps that energy, something of that energy inside of your design. So let's go ahead and I'm seeing all those layers. Where is my layer? Over here. Okay, so okay, so let's start like trying to little bit clean it up just a tad. Just like that. And let's create the shape of the head. I want to make his face a little bit more angular. I think it will be more beneficial to this design.
Yeah, sure.
So even when I'm doing like this cleanup, I'm not trying to like really go over the lines very exact, because then you kind of lose something in the process when you try to do that. So I'm trying to still keep it loose. It's just that like I have like a little bit more refined guide to go about. So I have a little bit of tangent here. I don't like it. I try to delete that and not repeat the same shape all over again. So this is a little bit better. And let's create a little bit of like try to keep it a little bit more interesting. That's nice. So one thing I haven't done when I did like the first drawing is I didn't like create too much folds inside of his clothing in the fabric. And it's because I try to keep everything fairly fast, but like actually creating a little bit of folds will add much more believability to the fabric itself. So I will try to like do a little bit of folds to the fabric wherever I think it fits. Okay, so it already looks much better, I believe.
Udi, just a heads up, we got about 5 more minutes here.
Really?
Yeah, the time flies, right?
Wow, man. So I promised.
A little padding times, because I know you lost a little time at the beginning, so if there's more that you want to talk about, we can do another 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, so what I will do is like, I think I will let some of my friends and students like join me and start creating, and maybe I can help them a little bit. That will make me very happy. So let's try to do that. So this is our final version for right now. So I will go out from presentation mode. Let's do this. Stop down.
In the settings, yeah, in the settings you had it right the first time. Yeah, there.
Presentation. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I will hide my layers, and basically, if you want to draw right now, you can draw together with me. Let's do that. And what I suggest doing, just a sec, guys. What I suggest we do is like, let's divide the canvas a little bit. So let's do something like so, and so I divided the canvas for a little bit. It doesn't need to be like perfect, and try like each and every one of you can try to occupy like a certain spot, and I'll try to see what you're doing, and maybe if I can help, I can help. By the way, guys, if you want to like connect with me right now or chat with me, you can use the chat in the bottom right side of the screen. So you can use the chat window if you want to ask me anything. So in the meantime, I will take my final sketch. Let's start throwing a little bit of color.
So Udi, out of curiosity, in the classroom, are you able to do these kinds of jam sessions with your students where all of you are drawing together and collaborating?
Most of the time, when I teach, most of the time we're not doing the sessions together, is because like when I teach, I try to like give as much information as possibly I can in the time of the class. So most of the time, what I do is like I like go over principles and stuff like that, and I do like those demos, and then I give my students assignments, and then we can critique those assignments like in the following class or something like that.
That makes sense.
Like I think that a lot of times, maybe if you have like maybe like a 4 hour, 5 hour class, then you really have the time to practice together. But I think like for some subjects in drawing and character design, I think that if you have like the 1 hour or even 3 hours, if you start like practicing together, sometimes the student doesn't give like the assignment the time he needs to give the assignment. It's trying to like do everything very quickly. And, as the teacher, you're demonstrating stuff and you're doing everything quickly, but you've also been doing it like for 15 years.
Absolutely. Yeah, being a teacher myself, I understand the complexity to delivering lectures and information. There's so much information to share. You want to maximize that time. These kinds of collaborative exercises I've always found in sculpture and 3D, for example, we call it a lunch crunch, where you just take your hour of lunch and you just get in a Google Meet or a session and you just sculpt together and kind of build that confidence and stop trying to, hide in a corner and perfect that art and kind of just expose it in a way this setting that you're doing here is a really great exercise, I think, for anybody at any stage to maintain that confidence and be willing to share and information and ability, right?
Yeah, I also think like, there are different kind of teachers. I think that some teachers are a little bit more of intuitive artists. So intuitive artists, they like to demonstrate and then like maybe give feedback to the students. But I think that some artists are more analytical in their approach. And when you are analytical in your approach, usually you have like so much you want to talk about at one session. And sometimes I feel that I don't like really get to talk about everything I wanted to talk in one class.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's an interesting point that it works for some people and others find it challenging. I think communication through words requires translation and understanding, and sometimes I think for most humans that I know, we learn most by doing repetition, conditioning over and over and over and over, especially with art. But there are those few exceptions, those shining gems that just have something going on in their brain that they just get it and don't need anybody to tell them. I've seen those too.
mhm. Yeah, I totally agree. Also, I think that sometimes, let's try something a little bit darker. Also, I think that sometimes there are stuff you can't learn just by watching and just by listening. Some stuff you really have to try it, like in delve in, hands-on, and stuff like that. But if you have like, again, let's say you have a course when you teach like 1 time a week or 2 times a week, okay, versus the same course when you teach 5 times a week. So if you teach 5 times a week, you can actually show something and then let the students try for themselves. And you have like 5 classes at the same week. If you have like 1 class this week, so you feel like you don't want to waste all the time by practice at home and let's go over it. And you have all the time you want to practice, right?
Yeah, I was talking about this. I think that kind of connects to Jessica Drew yesterday. We were discussing just putting yourself in an environment that allows you to maximize your output. And sometimes a limited amount of time, if you have, 1 class a week, you can spread that workout over the whole week. But if you, have 5 classes and you have a limited amount of time, for some people that creates a fire that allows them to grow more quickly. But others, it might be more challenging. And I think each of us has our own way of absorbing information and applying, and sometimes it takes more time for others and less for some. And it's a really interesting dynamic when it comes to education and art. But most importantly, it just seems to be the most valuable to just enjoy it and love it and not make it a task, or not be so down on yourself for not being able to replicate what somebody else is doing. You just try to find the love enjoy in doing it, and the rest will come.
Exactly. If I could give advice to my 18-year-old self, I think it would be like, don't overthink it too much. Like, don't try to impress anyone else, and don't feel like you're in competition with someone. There are a lot of people like they think like, oh, you see all those great artists on ArtStation and on Pinterest, and you feel like so overwhelmed, and you can't help but comparing what you're doing to what you're seeing on your Instagram feed. And I think that can be like the most paralyzing thing ever. So basically, there is room for every piece of art that we can create, and I think like to be like at least like the least judgmental about yourself that you can be, and try to put the ego aside whenever you pick up your digital pen.
Absolutely. No, that's wonderful advice, and it's one of the things I love about Magma is that, this idea of art in this modern age, we all need to connect and share, and social media is a great place to do that. But having this ability to connect with people that you trust and your friends, to jump into a collaborative session and to be able to expressively share your artwork, without concern of, judgments or anything like that. It's a great environment to be able to grow in, to be able to share and work with others. And I think in this day and age, especially post-pandemic, and maybe people not being as collaborative as they have been in the past, there's a real need for it. And I love to see this panel layout, and seeing everybody drawing at the same time is such a cool experience to watch. And some of you guys are using the lasso tool, some of you are just doing traditional silhouette sculpting with a brush. It's super fun and engaging to watch. So as we are coming to a close here, we got a couple more minutes. I want to give you guys the time to add the last little touches that you've got going here. Everything's looking amazing. We have another presentation coming up in about 20 minutes with Yuri Newman and Jonathan from yesterday. And these guys are going to be doing collaborative presentation. Yariv also, like Udi, is in Israel right now, so you guys are in the same time zone. You guys are also friends. You guys are been connected for quite a while now. Is that right?
Yeah. There is a very good friend of mine. I will be on the presentation as well.
Yes, Udi, you are on, just so we can let everybody else know.
Yes, so...
Yeah, I'll have to check the schedule, but I just want to say it's been such a pleasure to connect with you, Udi, and great to see you again, my friends. It's very cool to see you guys representing Israel, and you're building an arsenal of super talented artists over there, I imagine. I'm so glad to see it.
Thank you, Solomon. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, man. It's always great to talk to you, and hopefully we'll get a chance to reconnect soon in person. I would love that.
Yeah, I would love that as well.
Well, we'll keep in touch, and thank you for such an incredible presentation. We got to get Jonathan set up here in a minute, but incredible work. And any shout-outs or anything that you want to mention here before we close?
Yeah, of course. So to all my friends and students in Israel, actually some of them working right now and doing amazing stuff. I will try to give you feedback for what you are doing. I apologize that we didn't have a little bit more time. And that's it. Come visit me, Drawing Academy, if you want to learn a little bit more about character design and drawing in general. Solomon, I appreciate you very much. Thank you for that.
Of course, Ben, it was truly my pleasure, and we'll have information on Udi in our social media channels, and we'll be able to share more on that. This broadcast will most likely be replayed in other locations, so look for that for those of you guys that are watching. And thanks again, Udi. It was a true pleasure, and I'll see you soon, my friend.
Thanks, brother. Good to see you. Thanks, brother.